So last month, Guitar World had an article about a professional musician who was touring with a Harley Benton ST20. Available from ThomannMusic for $79. I had to check one of these out. So in this video, I'm going to do a full and fair review of the Harley Benton ST20 and give you a good idea of what you can expect if you buy one. These guitars are available from ThomannMusic.com. I ordered 2 guitars at one time to save on shipping, and I'll get into that in a bit. The only issue I had was that the box was punched in on one corner, but thankfully everything was packaged well. This paper here was pulled over the corner, and there were no real issues or damage to the guitars. Upon opening the box, one of the things I noticed right away was everything was packed really neatly and really tightly, no issues at all. Upon taking the wrapping off of this guitar, one of the things that jumped right out at me was how nice the finish looks. It's really hard to believe how good the candy apple red looks on this guitar considering the price. Alright, so taking a closer look at the specifications for this guitar, the body is poplar, the neck itself is a maple, and the fretboard is a rosy acer. It has 22 frets, a 25.5 scale, and a modern C neck profile. It has your typical 3 single coil, 3 knobs, 1 volume, 2 tone, 5-way switch. I'll go ahead and flip it over and I'll take the cover off and give you guys a closer look at the vintage tremolo system that's on this guitar. And of course it has a very basic closed style tuner on the headstock, along with this lovely Harley Benton logo. So with that said, let's go ahead and run through a few different demos. I'll demo the different pickup positions, give you guys an idea of what this guitar sounds like, and then get into what I like and what I don't like about it. Alright, so here's the same clean channel now with chords. So a few quick side notes on that. I think the intonation may be off just a tad. Not a lot, just a little bit, maybe a minor adjustment. But other than that, the setup on the guitar is really good. Again, that bridge pickup is really weak. And in the clean channel, the best tone really is the neck. I think it actually sounds really good. It's usable, you know, as opposed to the bridge pickup. So that's definitely the most usable pickup here. So I'm going to go ahead and add some distortion, see how it sounds. Let's try something with a little more gain. So hopefully that gives you a good idea of how this guitar sounds. Now let's take a look at the pros and the cons of this guitar. With the first pro being price, right? At an astounding $79.99, it's really hard to ask for anything more on this instrument. These guitars are available new exclusively through ThomannMusic, and Thomann is located in Germany. Now, it will obviously depend upon your location how much shipping will be, but shipping definitely tends to be on the more expensive side. The workaround to that, of course, is if you order 2 guitars from Thomann, the shipping cost is, oddly enough, the same price. The shipping to my location for 1 guitar was actually $78. The cost to ship 2 guitars was actually $78. So with that said, if you buddy up with a friend, you can cut your shipping cost in half. Or, of course, the other choice, buy 2 guitars. Which is exactly what I did. I was planning on buying the Fusion T, and then at the end of the day, it was only another $79 on top of my existing bill to add this guitar to it. So it kind of only made sense for that price. But yeah, let's call it $119 for this guitar. It's really hard to ask for anything more than what this guitar already has on it. The second pro to this guitar, and what really blew me away, was the fretwork. It is absolutely astounding for the price point, and I'm really kind of jaw-dropped. I had seen other reviews of guys talking about, you know, that the fretwork on these guitars was really good, and I was honestly a little bit skeptical. Although the frets could probably benefit from a polish, the fret ends were spectacular. There was no sharp edges, rounded off nicely, and all the frets were level. The fretwork alone would be the one reason above everything else in this video that I would recommend this guitar. And the number 3 pro to this guitar, the setup. The guitar was playable right out of the box, and the action was actually pretty good. Was it perfect? No, but I found it again at the price point. The guitar was playable right out of the box, action was decent, overall happy with it. Might make a few tweaks, but for the price point, kind of surprising. The fourth pro to this guitar would be the tuners and the tuning stability. While the tuners on it are very basic and nothing special, they work really well, and they have the same amount of resistance on each tuner. This was also complemented by the fact that the guitar held tune really well. And lastly, the fifth pro to this guitar, overall, it feels very solid. All of the knobs turn with the right amount of resistance. Nothing there really feels cheap. The 5-way switch, each position movement feels right. It's fluid. There's nothing that really gives the impression that it's a cheap guitar. Even the input jack was tight. Everything was tightened around it. Everything was as it should and what you would expect on a more expensive guitar. So with that said, it isn't all sunshine and rainbows, and there are some things you should know about this guitar before you consider purchasing one. Let's start with the first con, the pickup quality. To be fair, the neck and the middle pickup were okay when using a clean channel or distortion. It was just nothing great. It took a lot of effort to get a decent tone like the one you heard in that first solo. Unfortunately, the bridge pickup in a clean channel was practically unusable. It was pretty low volume and very little sustain. Perhaps raising the pickup height might fix this a little bit, but as it came out of the box, pretty weak. Interestingly enough, when I added some distortion to that bridge pickup, it did sound a little bit better. That was what I played the Enter Sandman demo on. It was okay. You know, again, nothing great, but I suppose usable. And the second con to this guitar is the typical type of finish blemishes that you'll find on a cheaper instrument. In this case, and I'll try to get you a closer look at it, but in this case you can see it looks as though on the backside the paint was actually scratched a little bit and then they clear coated over that, which results in a little bit of a darker hue at a certain spot on the back. Thankfully, it's on the back of the guitar and doesn't really make a big difference, but it is somewhat noticeable and should be worth mentioning. And the third and final con to this guitar is the tremolo system. When not using the trem bar, the bridge itself actually held tune okay. My only gripes there were that the chrome itself looks kind of cheap, and that the set screws on the top side of the bridge are really sharp, so as you're resting your hand in palm muting, it's just kind of annoying. But overall, I could live with the bridge. It's the tremolo that's really poor. One of the things you may have noticed when I took that back plate off is that the springs are already starting to corrode. And the first few times in a session that you hit the trem bar, the springs audibly creak. So if you're buying this guitar and you're planning on using the trem system, I would consider that and maybe think you'll probably either have to replace the bridge or at the very least, replace the springs. So with everything taken into consideration, I think ultimately this guitar has really good bones. You just have to understand what you're getting with a budget instrument. The reality is this guitar makes for a perfect modding platform. And it would also be an excellent instrument for someone who's a beginner or just starting out. And as Guitar World pointed out, it even makes for a good gigging guitar, as it doesn't really take too much effort to make this guitar a real player. If something happens to it, if it gets damaged, crushed, or stolen, it's really not a big cost to replace it. And the article even mentions that the pickups were a little weak. So it wasn't just me. So if you're curious about the other guitar that I held up in that video, it's a Harley Benton Fusion. Be sure to check out this video right here where I do a full review of that guitar. If you have any questions, by all means leave them in the comments. I do try to answer all the questions that come through on the channel. And as always, thanks for watching.